Hitler thought he could crush the Soviet Union in just weeks, but what happened next changed the entire war. From the burning streets of Stalingrad to the fall of Berlin, the USSR became the true force that broke the Nazi war machine. Chapter 1. Invading the USSR. In June 1941, Nazi Germany launched a huge surprise attack on the Soviet Union. This attack was called Operation Barbarossa, and it was the largest invasion in history. More than 3 million German soldiers crossed the Soviet border with thousands of tanks, planes, and weapons. Hitler believed that the Soviet army, known as the Red Army, would collapse quickly. He thought he could crush the USSR in just a few months. At first, it looked like Hitler might be right. The German army moved very fast, winning battles one after another. On June 24th, they took control of Vilnius. Just a few days later, on June 28th, they captured Minsk. By July 1st, they had also taken over Riga. These were major cities, and their loss was a big blow to the Soviet Union. By September, the Germans had surrounded the city of Leningrad, cutting it off from supplies and trapping the people inside. Around the same time, they also trapped hundreds of thousands of Soviet soldiers in a large pocket near Kiev. This tactic was called a cauldron, where troops were surrounded from all sides with no way to escape. Things looked very bad for the Soviet Union. The German army was strong, fast, and well organized. It seemed like nothing could stop them. Moscow, the Soviet capital, was now in danger. Many believed that the Germans would take Moscow soon and win the war on the Eastern Front. But the Red Army was not ready to give up. Something big was about to change. Chapter 2. The Battle for Moscow. As German tanks rumbled closer to Moscow, it looked like nothing could stop them. The Soviet capital was in danger, and the people were afraid. But then, something unexpected happened. In the freezing winter of 1941, Soviet soldiers, helped by regular people, even women and children, decided to fight back. Together, they launched a surprise counterattack against the Germans. The weather was bitterly cold, and the snow was deep. But the Red Army pushed forward with everything they had. Slowly but surely, they pushed the German troops back, hundreds of kilometers away from the city. For the first time, Hitler's mighty army had been stopped. It was a major turning point in the war. The Nazis, who had seemed unstoppable, had finally been forced to retreat. But this hard-earned victory came with a heavy price. Entire cities were destroyed, homes were burned. Millions of people lost their lives. The country was deeply wounded and close to falling apart. Still, the fight was far from over. This was only the beginning of the Soviet Union's long and painful road to victory. Chapter 3. Big losses in 1942. The Soviet Union thought it could now push forward. In spring 1942, the Red Army tried to attack along the entire front, but spreading their troops too thin led to disaster. The Germans held their ground in Crimea, near Moscow, and around Leningrad. In May 1942, a major Soviet offensive near Kharkov failed terribly. About 200,000 Soviet soldiers were surrounded and captured. This defeat gave Germany a new chance to launch another strong attack in the south. By summer, the German army reached the Volga River and closed in on the oil-rich Caucasus region. If Germany captured the oil, it could power its war machine forever. Everything now depended on one city, Stalingrad. Chapter 4. Victory at Stalingrad. The Battle of Stalingrad was one of the bloodiest in history. The Nazis bombed the city into ruins. Soviet soldiers fought from building to building, often with only knives or bayonets. It looked like Germany would win again. But the Soviet Union had a surprise. In November 1942, the Red Army launched a massive counterattack surrounding the German Sixth Army. Hitler refused to let them retreat. Winter came, and the trapped German soldiers had little food, medicine, or warm clothing. By February 1943, they couldn't fight anymore. The German Sixth Army surrendered. More than 300,000 Nazi soldiers were either killed, captured, or seriously injured. This victory at Stalingrad was a turning point. It not only saved the Soviet Union from defeat, but also shocked the world and proved that the Nazis could be beaten. Chapter 5. The tank battle at Kursk. After losing at Stalingrad, Germany wanted to take back control. In the summer of 1943, Hitler made one last big move. His plan was to attack a large area called the Kursk salient, a big bulge in the Soviet front line. It was held by the Red Army, and Hitler thought a surprise attack there could help Germany win again. He sent thousands of tanks, planes, and soldiers, hoping to break through the Soviet lines. But this time, the Soviets were ready. They had learned a lot from their past mistakes. The Red Army built strong defenses like deep trenches, thick minefields, and rows of anti-tank guns. They knew the attack was coming and set a trap. When the Germans attacked in July, they ran into a wall of fire and resistance. What followed was the biggest tank battle in history. Tanks clashed in open fields, guns roared non-stop, and smoke filled the sky. After weeks of heavy fighting, the German army failed to break through. This battle changed everything. Germany lost many tanks, planes, and soldiers. After Kursk, they could no longer take the lead in the war. From this point on, the Soviet Union started pushing the Germans back. The Red Army was now in control and moving west, step by step. Chapter 6. Soviet power grows. In 1944, the Red Army started to move faster than ever. They raised the siege of Leningrad, took back Crimea, and crossed the border into Romania. But the biggest blow came in June 1944, with Operation Barbarossa. This massive Soviet attack destroyed 17 German divisions and pushed the Nazis back 600 kilometers. Entire regions of Belarusia and eastern Poland were freed in just weeks. The Germans lost 500,000 men. Now, the Red Army was not just defending, it was winning. They chased the enemy across Eastern Europe, took control of vast areas, and showed that Soviet blitzkrieg was just as powerful as Germany's once was. Chapter 7. Breaking the Axis. As Soviet soldiers pushed further west, the countries that had supported Nazi Germany started to fall apart. Romania, Bulgaria, and Finland either gave up fighting or changed sides and joined the Allies. This was a big turning point. In a powerful show of victory, thousands of captured German soldiers were marched through the streets of Moscow. It was a clear message to the world. Nazi Germany was falling apart. But the war wasn't over yet. The Nazis still had fight left in them. In cities like Budapest in Hungary and Warsaw in Poland, German troops battled hard, street by street. These were brutal urban battles with heavy losses on both sides. The Nazis were desperate to stop the Soviet advance. In March 1945, Germany launched one last big attack near Lake Balaton in Hungary. They called it Operation Spring Awakening. It was supposed to push back the Red Army and turn the tide of war. But the attack quickly failed. The Soviet forces stood strong and pushed the Germans back again. By early 1945, Soviet troops were only about 70 kilometers away from Berlin, the heart of Nazi Germany. The end of the war in Europe was just around the corner. Chapter 8. The Fall of Berlin. In April 1945, Marshal Zhukov's forces launched the final attack on Berlin. The fighting was brutal, street by street, house by house. The Germans, though beaten, still resisted, but they couldn't stop what was coming. On May 2nd, Berlin fell. Hitler was dead, and on May 9th, Germany officially surrendered. The Soviet flag was raised over the Reichstag, the heart of Nazi power. The war was over, but the cost was immense. The Soviet Union had lost over 20 million people. Entire cities were destroyed. But it was also the Red Army that had marched the farthest, fought the longest, and paid the highest price to destroy Hitler's empire. So how did the USSR win World War II? Not with luck, but with unbelievable sacrifice, relentless courage, and a war machine that rose from defeat to become unstoppable. From the ruins of Kiev to the heart of Berlin, the Soviet Union turned the tide of history. Now, we want to hear from you. Do you think the Soviet Union's role in World War II is talked about enough today? Was it the Red Army that truly crushed the Nazis? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. And if you found this story powerful, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon so you don't miss more untold stories from history.